Welcome to the warm-up music. Here's the timer. Yep, that's exactly what I did last week. I started it all over again. Welcome to It's About Us on another smoky Thursday evening here in Sacramento, California. Fortunately, the smoke is better than it's been. It's not great, though. We'll talk a little bit about that later on. But welcome to the show this evening. Thank you for dropping in. And if you're here with me live, please say hello in the chat so that I can say hello back. And if you are, watching on the recording, I still want to say hello. So drop a line, make a comment, and what have you. I hope everyone's well and doing okay, staying healthy, being safe. Yeah. I got nothing really new to talk about in my world. Things are pretty much the same. There's been no new, events or anything. Nothing new going on. I am, however, probably going to make a trip tomorrow morning to the local hardware store and purchase some N95 masks. It's the smoke outside. Oh, and there's a comment. Hang on one second before I go any further here. Hey, Cheryl, welcome aboard. Hope all is well in your world. Yeah, we'll have to have you back on soon. I still want to hear all about how the garden's doing up there in Citrus Heights. How did it do during the COVID? Did people still get out there and stuff? So we'll get you back on here at some point, if that's okay with you. So I was just going to say that for those of us, especially who have respiratory concerns, I have a slight bronchial asthma. When there's something called the AQI, just the air quality index, and I have a little app on my phone that I can check it. And was it yesterday morning? I think it was yesterday morning that it was over 200. That's really, really bad. And basically it said, close your windows, don't go outside. It's horrible. But then it stayed over 100 for, I think, all day. This morning it was better. It started off being below 100, but once it gets over 100, then it's hard to breathe if I spend a lot of time outside. And it's all about the air patterns, right? How they're moving around. So what I discovered was if you're wearing a cloth mask because of COVID, the cloth masks don't do a lot to prevent those particulates from coming through. I would guess the paper masks are a little bit better, but they do suggest an N95 mask. And when you think about it, they actually suggest the N95 mask for the COVID also. So I have the blue. Do I have one handy here? Let's look. I do. Wasn't planned on, but this, so this is the mask that I wear when I go outside in public. And it does an okay job, COVID wise. And it does an okay job, I think, maybe smoke wise, but the N95 is preferred. And so, I went online, and apparently Ace Hardware carries the N95. And they're just a few blocks away. So I will make a journey in the morning. Normally mornings are better for the air quality, and it progressively gets worse throughout the day. So that's on deck. They're not very beautiful masks. They're weird looking. And I guess the K95 or KN95 or whatever it's called, that also works apparently. And I think the K stands for that they're made in Korea. I think that's what that means. Not sure, but last time I looked, that's what that meant. So that's kind of new. I don't like the N95 as much, but with the smoke, it's just not worth it. And for those people who are unvaccinated, especially, if you end up contracting the COVID-19 virus, and then you have the smoke inhalation on top of it, can be, fairly serious. So I guess that's a good time for segueing. So let's segue on into what I like to call a COVID minute. I don't know if there's good music for COVID-19. If there's good music for COVID-19, I'll have to do a little research. Hospital sounds, I don't know. It's a pretty picture, though. Natural thing is, there's a beauty, is a macabre beauty to the virus. That's an artist's rendition, of course, but it's still just a beautiful creation of nature that isn't compatible with humans. Weird, right? Anyway, let's take a look at a couple of things. I have an article here that I want to share, something that showed up today for me, about something in Oregon, which I thought was something that we all need to pay attention to. And here we go. Let's turn this off here. Southern Oregon patient dies with COVID-19, waiting for an ICU bed. We didn't have enough. So that's one of the things that's happening. You've got people who get sick, right? And they can have serious respiratory ramifications, and they could end up dying. But that's not the only thing that's happening. What's happening when that happens and those numbers climb, and you can look on the graph here, look at that, number of hospitalizations, 752, and then you've got 206 in the ICU and 102 and 112 on the ventilator. When those high ICU beds get full in the region, then people who need them that maybe don't have COVID-19, they don't have access to those beds. And this particular person had COVID-19, needed an ICU bed, couldn't get into an ICU bed, and ended up dying. Now, it doesn't mean the person wouldn't have died anyway, but they would have had a better chance getting into that ICU bed. Let's see what it has to say here. It says it had been several hours because other COVID positive patients had filled the beds. And after expanding ICU care onto other floors, there weren't any beds available for this particular patient. So they even had extra beds and there weren't, and this is the problem. This is the problem that they're seeing in Mississippi and the problem they're seeing in Texas and the problem they're seeing in Florida. And look at this. Patients are parked in hallways. Staffing is critically short. I need to be direct about what's causing this crisis. A growing wave of unvaccinated patients who have become so sick with the Delta variant that they need to be hospitalized. That's just super sad, right? Super sad. And it doesn't have to be that way. So I was talking with a friend of mine earlier, and let's take a look at Capital Public Radio is doing a good job of keeping track of numbers and sharing them with us. So let's take a quick look here at Capital Public Radio, see what the numbers look like for our area. Where are you here? There we go. COVID-19 hospitalizations in Sacramento County as of August 18. That'd be yesterday. Look at this. Look at that. Hospitalized patients. And there's always a lag, right? There's a 2-week lag between becoming infected and then possibly going to the hospital. Then there's a little bit of a lag for people moving into the ICU. And then there's a lag for people getting on ventilators. And you can see here the ICU patients and how that's going here in Sacramento County. It's climbing. And the cases day by day. City of Sacramento is like off the hook bad, which is to be expected probably because of the higher density of people, I'm guessing. But still, it's just, the difference between the city of Sacramento and the rest of the Sacramento County is just amazing as to how awful it is. Well, my friend and I were texting back and forth this morning, and I'm using my phone as my camera, so I can't take a look at it. But I asked her, I said, so do we know how many beds are available in the area and how many beds are occupied? And she gave me those numbers, and all I remember, I think 500 and some odd beds available, and I think 400 and some odd beds occupied. And that's 70, it ended up being 79%. So we're at 79% ICU beds occupied, which leaves us, 21% available. So slowly but surely that number is creeping up. And that's something we need to keep an eye on, because once those beds get all occupied 100%, then we need to look at, do we have alternate places for people to go? I was listening to a podcast this morning, and they were talking about the, I forget what they call them, but they're the antibodies that you can get an infusion of. It takes a couple of hours. But if you are unvaccinated and you test positive and you catch it early enough, if you get this infusion, then it really increases your chances of coming out of this fairly okay. Clonal antibodies, something like that. So there are things that we can do to help stem the tide, but it's looking more and more dire all the time. I kind of like to keep a look at the numbers, so it keeps me informed about how things are, and just ups my awareness of, maybe I don't want to attend this particular public event. Maybe, who knows? Maybe I want to stay home for more. Maybe I do want to shelter more. Maybe I do want to, like normally I just go to my little corner market for a quick dinner or something. Or maybe I want to go to the grocery store and stock up so I don't have to go out so often. these are questions that I'm wrestling with, and honestly, I don't have an answer for at this point, but I'm still wrestling with them. As long as I'm on the topic of respiratory, COVID-19 is respiratory, smoke is respiratory. There's something else that's going on that I want to talk about briefly, and that is pulmonary fibrosis. So let me pull up a page here, share this with y'all. And again, thank you for being with me tonight as we take a look at some of these things. So this is, do they have the name up here? Pulmonary Fibrosis Foundation. So I've got a good friend. I've known him for, about 35 years. He's a good friend. And he's 4 years older than I am. He and I, when he turned 60, which was a few years ago, we went down to the parachute place down in Lodi. And we both jumped out of a plane when he turned 60. I'll never do it again, but that's the kind of friendship that we have, that we would do crazy stuff like that. Anyway, within the last year, he's been diagnosed with pulmonary fibrosis, and it's not getting better. It's not going to get better. And it's just something that hasn't had a lot of attention paid to it. So there's a fundraiser that he has joined, and he's created a team. The fundraiser is called One Step Closer to a World Without Pulmonary Fibrosis. So there's a couple of kinds of fibrosis. One is cystic fibrosis. I had a girlfriend that had cystic fibrosis, and she eventually died of it. And it's something that you're born with. And pulmonary fibrosis is something that you can acquire during your lifetime. And interestingly enough, one of the populations that is most prone to coming down with pulmonary fibrosis are firefighters. I didn't know that. He was sharing that with me earlier this week. I also discovered that one of my good friends from the choir, he was a bass, and we sat next to each other. He was a bit older than I am. He's passed away from pulmonary fibrosis. So I was, there when he was diagnosed with it, and watched him gradually get worse. Finally, he was confined to his home, and then he finally, passed away from it. So I don't normally do things like this, but I got involved. I joined my friend Forrest's team. I registered on the team and became someone who would participate in trying to get donors. There's a national walk day that's coming up on September 25th this year, and I will be walking with him. There will be a few of us. I posted up something earlier this week. As we get closer to September 25th, I'll be doing more of that, just to raise awareness. And if people want to donate, they can, but just to be aware of it. And when it strikes, there's all kinds of things to participate in and donate to, and we all have limited discretionary funds. We can't give to everything, but sometimes things really strike close to home. And this is one of those things for me, both a good friend of mine who has passed on, and my friend Forrest, who is currently living with pulmonary fibrosis. So to be in support of him, I wanted to take part in this. This is the national goal. $685,000 is their current goal. Let's see, am I signed in here? It looks like I am. So we're at the event home. I don't know if I can get to my page exactly here. My goal is 250. I think I'm at $60 right now. Let's see. Fundraising page facts. Where am I? Da, da, da. Okay, that's not it. I want to share you my page if I can. It's not coming up. That's all right. Let me see if I click on that. No, that's just my information. We don't need that. Resource bank. So there's all kinds of things here. Somewhere my page is located, and it'd be fun to take a look at it, but it's not there, and that's okay. Yeah. Anyhow, so that's kind of going on. I guess you could consider that something new, but something that I'm going to help see if Forrest can accomplish his goal. I think he said his goal, the team goal is, I think it's like $500 or something like that. And so we're on our way. He's got a few donations, and we'll keep plugging away at it and see what we can do here. You never know. I've participated in a walk for our National Association of Mental Health. I think it's NAMI. I think it's called NAMI. Did that a few years back because I've got a friend who asked me if I would. That's something that she was a part of because of her experience with mental health. And I'm very happy to do stuff like that. So that's coming up. And as we go forward, now I've asked Forrest if he'd be willing to be on my show, and it'll probably be something that I will have to pre-record to share with you because I don't know if this time slot works for him to be online. That's something possibly in the next few weeks we can set that all up. That would be fun. Don't you think that'd be fun? Would that be fun? This is how I feel about it. This is how fun I think it would be. Yay, that would be fun. Yay. Okay, enough. Too much fun. We don't want to have too much fun because too much fun is too much fun. So before the show started, I'm going to take a little digression here. A lot of times I talk about heavy topics because that's what I think about a lot, staying informed myself. But before the show, I was looking on my Facebook page, and I found something that I thought was just the cutest thing. So let's go to it here. This is, we're going to look at it again. This is an aardvark. No, I'm not sharing this. Stop it. I want to watch again. That's what we want. This is, can we make it bigger? This is armadillo napping. Isn't that something? Now, I've never seen an armadillo upside down. And it's got music, which I don't think you can hear, but I'm a little bit shy of putting music I'm not aware of on because I got a note from YouTube a while back. And there he is, Mr. Armadillo. Isn't that cute? I just thought I'd share that because it's cute and we need to take a break. Yeah. I've never seen an armadillo upside down before, but they're cute. I don't know what kind of pets they'd make, but they're cute. Now they're native to what? Texas? Southwest, somewhere. And yeah, that was a fun little video that just popped up on my radar that I thought I'd share for fun. So now that we've got the fun out of the way, there's one more thing that I wanted to talk about. It's with so much going on in the world, it's easy to forget that there's so many important things going on in the world. I had discussions earlier this week on something called, you know what? Now it's escaped my mind. It'll come back to me. But darn, maybe it won't. In any event, it's a heavy topic, and critical race theory, that's what it is. Critical CRT could be civil rights training. This is critical race theory, and what it's all about. And yeah, it's called a senior moment. Except for I've been dealing with this all my life. I think it goes back to um, my head injury when I was in the second grade, which I talk about on my own podcast, My Life and Welcome to It. There's an episode where I spent a lot of time on my head injury and how it affected my life. And um, I've had memory. I've got a fairly good memory, but usually I remember things on the random. And when I want to remember something, it's usually not there for me. And I have to spend some time. I've got a mental index file that I go through. Yeah, aka the truth about American history. Except for some people they want to reframe CRT as something that it's not. Um, and I was watching a video where this guy was talking about CRT, and he brought in Hegelian. See, now I can't remember the whole thing. It's the Hegelian dialectic. See, I couldn't remember it because it's crazy words, right? The Hegelian dialectic, hard words for me to remember. But anyway, and his explanation of what that meant was different from what I'd ever heard before. So I went online and I looked up the Hegelian dialectic, and yeah, it doesn't mean what this guy thought it meant, which is really weird, right? And he was talking about it in such a way that, I mean, he was saying that it was bad and this and that and the other thing, and just completely mischaracterizing what CRT is all about. So maybe it'll be worthwhile to have a show about that, just to talk about it. There are differing views on CRT, and this guy brought in the concept of intersectionality. And he totally misrepresented intersectionality. It's hard to believe. The people don't, intersectionality is like a Venn diagram, right? It's a Venn diagram. You got two things and they overlap, and where they overlap, that's where you're located. And that's called intersectionality. It's very simple. And yet this guy just makes it so weird. Sort of really downplaying, and there was two of them on this video, and the other guy could not understand the difference between personal racism and systemic racism, and just couldn't. It's very frustrating for me to watch. I don't know how to get past that sort of thing. Yeah. Anyway, we're talking about difficult subjects, and we're almost halfway through the hour. And so this is a time for me to make a public service announcement and say that if you're just now joining us, please say hello, make a comment, and so that I can say back. And Cheryl, you're absolutely right. Sometimes it does seem like willful ignorance, like they don't want to know. Someone posted up, when you have been the group in power, sharing that power seems like oppression, right? And we've had a dominant race here in this country, and that they didn't understand that either. It's weird. The whites have been dominant in this country from its founding and even before, and they've been asked over the last few decades to, unfortunately, I don't know how a different way to put it, to share their power. And to them, it feels like they're being oppressed, right? That's it. Thank you, Cheryl. That's the quote. When you're accustomed to privilege, equality feels like oppression. And to me, that's as clear as day. But for a lot of people, they don't see it. That's why I still like to liken white privilege as being trapped in the matrix. As Morpheus says to Neo, it's the air you breathe. It's all around us. It's the TV shows we watch. It's the magazines we read. It's the chairs we sit in. It's the homes we buy. I mean, it's so around us that we don't see it. It's invisible to us, right? Until we take time to learn about it, to actually ask ourselves those hard questions. It's like, what's going on? What's really going on? And to maybe venture out from our comfort zone. One of the things that, and I didn't mean to talk about CRT, but I'm just going to make one more comment about CRT. Many people don't know how to feel good about themselves organically. They have to feel better than someone. You know, that's right. I mean, even as children, right? When we're insecure, that's what put downs are all about. It's the scapegoating. We saw that many cultures will scapegoat a group within that culture to make them feel better about themselves, to cast blame. So instead of saying we're at blame, no, they're at blame. They're the ones that blame. Scapegoating. It's centuries old, and we still do it. We do it all the time because people don't want to take responsibility for things. It's like, so I don't know how I can not talk about this stuff right now. But anyway, I'm not responsible for what my ancestors did. Not directly, I'm not. But as a collective in this group of people, I do take responsibility of what has happened in the past. So I'm looking at my battery level and it's not looking good. So I'm saying that as a caveat. If this cuts out, the show will keep going. I'll make some changes and I'll be back on. So just in case, forewarned. Anyway, learning how to take responsibility for things, I think is really important. And even though I might not be directly responsible for it, I do share responsibility for when I don't speak out about it, for when I participate in it, even unknowingly. Once I find out, once I am made aware of my participation in systemic racism, I may not be racist. I don't think I'm racist. But if I participate in systemic racism, then I'm still responsible. Yep. Yeah, you got it, Cheryl. You're absolutely right. Absolutely right. Absolutely right. I agree 100%. We're responsible to be aware. And maybe people don't want CRT because they know that if they paid attention to it, they'd be made aware. It's like ignorance is bliss. Hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil. Put your fingers in your ears. Nah, head in the sand. And if I do that, then I'm not responsible. I didn't know, right? That's possibly what that's all about. Well, the other thing that people don't know about and they're not paying attention to because there's so much going on is what's happening with climate change. And this popped up today for me. I want to share this little tidbit. And it sure does. In every aspect of life, right? Denial and silence. There's nothing worse than knowing about something and being silent about it. And it's that whole thing when I talked a few weeks ago about common good and solidarity and community. If we're out and we see someone being abused, let's say, in public, I think it's our responsibility to say something. I remember when I was I was going through my own inner child work. I was working with the inner child that I carried with me and working on my own memories of childhood, my relationship with my parents. I remember reading a book. It was by Alice Walker. See, her name just pops into my head. I didn't want it. I wasn't looking for it. And boom, there it is. Alice Walker. And one of the things she talked about was the crime that takes place when a parent is abusing their child in public and other adults don't go in there, right, to step in between that child and that parent. we have to do that. I mean, it's not our kid. That's right. But that parent does not have the right to abuse that child, whether it's spanking him in public or yelling and screaming at him in public or what have you. We got to speak up. And I want to speak up a little bit about climate change, global warming, because there's an article that, I mean, gosh, if it's not a red flag, I don't know what is. Let me just share this. It popped up on CNN, but I found another article that I think is a little bit better because of the graphic. Red alert. It rained in Greenland's ice sheet for the first time in recorded history. This is an unprecedented event, and it didn't just rain, it dumped, and we'll get to it here. A torrential downpour containing 7 billion tons of rain. Okay? In a massive melt event that impacted 337,000 square miles, about half of the ice shelf. This is not good because when it rains like that, it melts the ice. They said there was enough rain to fill the reflection pool in Washington, D.C. So just a lot of water. It says even newly ice formed by freezing rainwater will likely be short-lived. Yeah, it's just, the existing ice on Greenland formed by the repeated compression of snow over the years is bright white and reflects sunlight away from the imperiled island ecosystem. But ice from frozen rain is smoother and darker in color, and it will absorb more sunlight, further raising the temperatures in the area. That's pretty dire. That is pretty dire. And it's a red flag. And last week I shared about some things that we could do. We talked a lot more about climate change. And it's a red flag that I don't, it's going to get. No, I didn't lose battery. I clicked on, I was closing the window for that tab on Greenland, and I closed the StreamYard app, so that was my bad. Sorry. Okay. It's a red flag, and, we're talking about a lot of things in this country, infrastructure and, voting rights bills. All this stuff is really important. But what is our country doing in regards to global warming? It hasn't hit the radar yet. It's there. People are talking about it, but it hasn't risen to the level of action. And we don't have a lot of time left. And it may be that our government just can't do a lot. And it's going to be up to the corporations that are the big polluters and those of us that have things we can do at home to make the difference. I don't know what's going to happen here, but as time goes by, it's just going to get worse and worse. We've already reached a point of no return. We've reached a point of serious extreme weather. That what happened in Greenland was extreme weather. And we're there now. We're there. We're going to be seeing extreme weather events throughout the year. Rain, drought, flooding, tornadoes, hurricanes, extreme. And that's not going to go away. If I was listening, if we were able to stop all the pollution immediately with a click of the finger, a wave of the hand, right now, it would take 10 years to get back to normal from now. And it's not stopping, and it's not getting better. It's getting worse. So eventually we're going to hit that tipping point where, we're just in such big trouble that I don't know what's going to pull us out of it. Anyway, these are calls to action. And, whatever we can do right? To spread the word, to say, hey, we need to do something. Whether it's maybe we have to, maybe there's going to be a boycott for big polluters. I don't know. Yeah, if we haven't already. The problem is, and I'm sure you're well aware of this, Cheryl, that sometimes we have to yell and scream and shout and act up over and over and over and over again. Just like with disability rights, until it strikes close to home, people don't give it a whole lot of credence. They don't care. They're not paying attention. It doesn't affect them. So how about all these people who get sick with COVID-19? They're unvaccinated. They go into the hospital and they're in the ICU and they're all, crying. They're saying, I wish I'd have taken the vaccine. Well, guess what? It's too late. Until it hit home. And that's sad that that we're so hard-headed sometimes that until we get smacked between the eyes with something, we don't pay attention to it. And that's how we are. I mean, that's the human condition. I see it all over the place in all different kinds of things, right? And we're just hard-headed people. We're stubborn, especially in the United States, especially in the United States. I know in New Zealand, getting back to COVID here, they found one case of COVID and they shut the country down. That's how serious they're taking it in New Zealand. They shut the country down over one case. Yeah, it does. It goes back to responsibility for the common good, which is completely lacking, which is something that when we get an opportunity, something to really talk it up, common good, general welfare. I was reading an article today, and I think I shared it on my Facebook page. And it was all about how do we talk to people that are unvaccinated? What do we say? And the whole article was about, it's because I love you. I got vaccinated because I love my kids. I love my family. I love my friends. It's not just about me being protected, but it's about protecting them. And if you love me, I would hope you would get vaccinated also. And boiling it down to that, the love equation, it's one of the things that's hard for people to say to each other. I love you. I care about you. We feel like it makes us vulnerable, I think. If I tell you I love you, then that allows you to hurt me emotionally, because that makes me vulnerable, because now you know how much I care. But I think it's a risk it's worth taking, as a community, a neighborhood, a city, a state, a country, especially when it comes to something like a pandemic, or whether it's nuclear proliferation, which is another big problem. We've got to say, I love you and I care about you. So I'm going to do what I can about it. Right. That's what I would hope. But golly, who knows? One of the things I'm going to try to do before the hour gets too far away from me here, we're about to 15 minutes left. I'm going to set it up so that I can receive a telephone call. So let's see how that's going here. Let me just set this up real quick. And you're going to see my head bouncing back and forth because I'm doing a few things on screen here, because what I forgot to do was I forgot to set this up before the show. And so now I'm setting it up, which is sort of after the fact, but it means that I'm not paying attention to you like I should. So I'm setting it up here. There's that. And so there you go. Okie dokes. So let's do this. Let's put the phone number up like that. We'll take the comment down. Yeah. Yep. We got to learn to say, I love you. Isn't that the truth? Maybe that's what the name of the show, I'll change the name of the show to the I Love You Show. There's There's a guy. See if I can remember his name. Hang on one second here. Let me make this all purified. There we go. There we go. Leo Buscaglia. I don't know if you remember the good old Leo, but he was a guy known for hugging people. Leo Buscaglia. See? Yeah. Yeah, I've made my screen pretty now with my telephone and the live call number 916-545-5376. And I wish I had something to give away. I could say, call in within the next 5 minutes and you will win. Yeah, it doesn't work like that. I don't have anything to give away. I'm cheap that way. I guess I could buy something to give away, do a giveaway. They got some great things, tools to do giveaways. I mean, when there's a lot of people on, there's a way to get everybody entered in, and then they draw a name, and that's really exciting. But I don't have anything to give away because I'm cheap. I don't know. Who knows? There's all kinds of ideas, but maybe someday, right? Yeah, you never know. So anyway, I have an incoming call. Let's see if I can get this to work here. I'm trying.
Call from.
Everybody entered in, and then they draw a name.
To accept, press 1. To send a voicemail.
Okay. So maybe I called myself.
Hello. No, Cheryl called you.
Oh, hi, Cheryl. That's too much. Oh, how you doing this evening? Now we're talking voice to voice.
I'm doing good. I wanted to share my "It's About Us" thoughts.
Yeah.
The last few days, I live fairly close to McClellan Airfield.
Okay.
And it's being used for firefighting support.
Oh, it is.
So the planes going in and out are just like constant, every 5 or 10 minutes.
Are these the planes that carry the chemical that puts fires out? Or the planes that pick up water or something?
They carry water. They carry personnel and supplies.
Oh, really? Okay. Wow.
So yeah, CAL FIRE contracts for the airfield during disasters. So they're flying a lot of stuff up to the northeast there in the Placerville area, and I would imagine also up to the Dixie Fire as well. But I think I've noticed an extreme increase in traffic the last few days. So they may be doing both.
Wow. Yeah.
So it's a constant reminder that I'm sitting here in my little bubble, and it's easy to forget that people are suffering, people are running scared, people are afraid for their families, for their properties, for their pets, and there are people out there risking their lives to try and make it better.
Yeah.
And God bless them all.
Many of those firefighters are from our prison system, right? And they're getting paid next to nothing to do it.
Yep.
Yeah. And I don't even know how many people have already been displaced, whether through evacuation or actually having lost their homes. But I'm imagining it's quite a lot of people right now.
It is a lot of people. They keep having to add evacuation centers as the existing ones keep filling up.
Oh, dear. Wow. Yeah, I don't know if I think they said that one of the fires was contained, but there's a new one now. I guess it's up over by Clear Lake. I think it's new.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Clear Lake County. And they just had it, they were part of a big fire not too long ago.
They and we're just at the beginning of fire season. Fire season goes well into October.
Yeah, it's a bad thought, isn't it?
Yeah, and lately, the last few years, with everything being so dry, fire season has extended even longer. So
yeah, and
we
I
need
was reading a thing that they are anticipating another dry winter. So
yes,
this drought is going to hang on for a while, I'm afraid.
it could.
Yeah, I don't know what that's going to mean to California agriculture, or people might have to just get used to not bathing as often or something, or I don't know what's going to happen. No idea. But it's going to get, I mean, we've been through droughts before and water conservation before, but I think we're going to see something we've not experienced before.
I think so too.
Yeah. And we're going to have to pull together as a community and come together if we, and do things for each other if we have to. I remember I had a girlfriend at one point who lived in Germany, and she grew up in East Germany prior to the fall of the wall. So it was part of the USSR. And I asked her, I said, what did she prefer? Did she prefer living in, under the USSR, under communist Germany, or when it became after Germany was unified? And it was a very interesting answer. She said that, there were more material things in the unified Germany. But under communist rule, people thought about each other more, and they helped each other out more, and there was more community. And it's just an interesting way of looking at it. And what happened was, when the wall came down, a lot of people in the East, actually, there was a big migration into the West because they were more affluent, and it even hurt the East more. So it's just an interesting way to look at it, that there was more community and social coherence before Germany was unified in the East, because things were so bad and so hard. Hard times maybe hard times what's going to throw us together. That would be a sad way of looking at it, but maybe that's what it's going to take. Maybe it's going to take something really serious for us to come together. I don't know. What do you think?
It did during the Depression, and that was the catalyst for the New Deal.
Yep, that's true.
Where government completely shifted its focus, and
thank you, Francis Perkins.
Yes.
Yeah, no, that's right. You're right. That's what it took. I don't wish it on any country, but I remember telling a friend of mine back in the 90s, I said, I don't think anything major is going to change in our country until we have an economic collapse. I don't wish it. I don't look forward to it, but I kind of think that it might be inevitable, and it may not be in my lifetime. It may be, another 25 years down the road, but I do think, and I've seen this term in print many times, that we are in end stage capitalism.
Yeah, it does. So, and even if it isn't a big, a global event like climate change, I think cyber crime is probably a bigger threat than we are acknowledging. Let's
at least publicly
take out for a few, or the power grid. Somebody zaps the power grid.
Yeah, very, very. Yeah, that could be.
And just sends everything into chaos. And
yep. Wouldn't it though? Can you imagine if the national power grid went down, or at least one
look
of
what
the
happened.
I can't imagine. Or what if someone figured out a way to take out the communications satellites, or even just the GPS satellites? People, I've got a friend who, he's driving within Sacramento, only probably about 10 blocks, and he puts his phone on Google Map or whatever for a route. I'm like, dude, you know how to get there. But he uses, I don't know if he could be able to find his shoelaces if he didn't have GPS. So yeah, there's a lot of ways. There's a lot of ways this country could be hamstrung. Many different ways. And I think with some of the breaches that we saw, I think earlier this year, I think those might have been test runs.
Very possible.
Yeah.
Well, maybe we can take all that not spending it in Afghanistan and put it to good use, better use.
Boy, isn't that another subject, Afghanistan?
What a sad end.
And there's
sad tale.
Yeah, and there's blame to throw around everywhere. Starting with Afghanistan itself, going from George Bush to Donald Rumsfeld to all those neocons back then. We could, when we finished kicking the Taliban out of Afghanistan, instead of pivoting to Iraq, and we just said, we're bringing the troops home. We're done. We're bringing the troops home. We could have done that. And that would have been like, 2004, I think. Yeah. In that, Afghanistan has had 20 years to prepare. And look how fast the Taliban moved through and overtook all those different, so there's something wrong. There was something wrong there from the get-go. I mean, and then it was perpetuated by, President Obama, I think, did what he could, but he was still, I think he relied on the generals in the Pentagon way too much. And he went in for the surge. He was told if he didn't do the surge, they were going to experience what we're experiencing right now. So what happened in 2009, I think it was, this would have happened then. And then Donald Trump, I'm surprised they even spoke his name out loud. He just fumbled the ball so badly there. There were promises made to a lot of the Afghan people that were assisting the U.S. troops, the translators and whatever. There were in 2016, there were some promises made to them. And apparently that no infrastructure was put in place to follow through. And even with President, then it just went really bad. And then with our current President Biden, I'm all for bringing the troops home. I'm glad they were doing it, but their intelligence was bad. He's like, well, this is happening faster than we anticipated. Well, why is that? How did you not know that it wasn't going to play out the way it did? That doesn't make sense to me. I don't know. There's a podcast I listen to. It's called Pod Save America. And they have another one called Pod Save the World. And on Pod Save the World, they've got, and it's all done by people who worked in the Obama administration. They were young guys at the time. And, but so they have a lot of insider insight to what happened during the Obama years and talking about the world scene and looking back and some of the mistakes that they've made in hindsight. Very, very interesting stuff. But they are also at a quandary as to why did it go down the way it went down? Didn't make any sense. So anyway, well, Cheryl, we're about at the end of the hour here.
We are.
Yeah. Thanks for calling in. And
thanks for having me.
We'll do this again anytime. Anytime you had the floor. And it's also great listening to your perspective. We think we're on the same page most of the time, if not all the time. Right. So, yep,
we are.
So
keep up
the good fight.
You too.
And keep the county in line. I'll try. Yeah. And I'll talk with you soon.
Take care, Chris.
Okay. You too. Bye-bye. Okay. So, yeah, it's always great to talk with my friend Cheryl. So let me go ahead and bye-bye phone and bye-bye phone number. And we're almost at the hour, which what a fun show for me. There's always stuff to talk about. And when Cheryl was talking about the forest fighters, even though they're wearing the respirators and all, they're still exposed to that smoke, and there's a chance that they could eventually come down with pulmonary fibrosis. So it's a big deal. So I'll be talking about pulmonary fibrosis again in a couple of weeks. But until then, protect yourselves. Be smart and safe with not just the Delta variant of COVID-19, but also the air quality, so that we protect our lungs and don't take unnecessary risks. So until I talk with you again next week, be safe, be happy, and once I get my my video here, then God bless.